Boo! Hello! Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Dee Dee. How's it going? Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Ah. Testing. Hello, Beans. I saw a ranger floating around there. Good evening, new Dee Dee. I put my bangs up. They were bugging me. So, well, we've got... It's time to change clothes, you know? It's the anime where you have, like, a new outfit every season. I saw there was, like, a toggle for, like, different bands, and I'm like, what options are there? And I'm like, ooh. Is it time for summer uniforms? I think it is. And I feel like... To some extent, this works great for Umineko, because I don't know, I feel like with my bangs up, I have like a more elegant appearance. Even if, you know, having, they call it the onion, even if having the onion is a little silly, but hey. But yes, it's June. It's been cold up here in Canada. It feels almost like the summers of my childhood where things didn't really start getting spicy hot until like July. But the temperature is gonna start spiking soon. It's in that period where overnight it drops a lot. And then during the day it increases. You dig it? Excellent! I like the Bane up style too. Also, I saw you changed your name. Hi Zexu, or should I say Boo Fan Zexu #1. I don't know, I felt like something different. I was like, you know what? It's time. Because I've said this before, wearing my default outfit when, like, you know, it starts getting really hot, just seeing the jacket on me, I'm like, I'm hot just looking at myself in the mirror. It's like, this has gotta go. And I don't know, I feel like veins up, at least for me, is very much a summer thing. Because most of y'all, I think, keep your hair usually pretty short. So I don't know how many of you actually have bangs, but for me, when it starts getting hot and gross, you don't want any hair touching your face. It just feels ick. So putting the bangs up makes sense. It's a quick, easy fix. Just need one of those little tiny hair ties and maybe some pins. Decently long, but you keep it in twister braids. Gotcha. So yeah, nothing really that falls on your face. The man buns are great. Talking about ethnic hair and buns, why did I instantly think of Sokka from Avatar? The original man bun, at least for millennials, I think. Definitely didn't know many people that had the man bun, so to speak. And then, like, sometime, like, definitely, like, many years after Avatar finished, I started seeing it get popular. I'm like, my man Sokka's been rocking that for ages. Y'all late to the party. Power to y'all. Some people really do have a face shape that's better suited to having short hair and or long hair. So, like, power to y'all. Because God, I remember having a manager. She was talking about how much she hates having long hair because it gets in the way and stuff. I'm like, I mean, you can cut it. She's like, no, I can't cut it. I can't cut it. It's like, that'd be weird. I'm like, why? Because you're a woman? Where is it legally stipulated that you must have long hair? Mama Melis always had short hair, and I always had short hair growing up too, because I did want to take care of it. I mean, waking up, like, at the crack of dawn for school, like, it's like, who wants to brush their hair, let alone, you know, style it or whatever? It's like, nah. It's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Especially in northern Ontario / northern Canada in the winter. Because it's like, if you're the type that showers in the morning, dear God, you want your hair to dry ASAP. Because if you go outside in the winter with your hair even slightly damp, ooh, it gets crunchy. Girls do look good with short hair, yeah, it's dumb gender essentialism stuff. Because I remember having a lot of mixed feelings and feeling like I always had to grow out my hair long and then thinking I looked bad with long hair. But if I cut my hair short, then people started saying I looked like an ugly man. Kids are so nasty. I'm like, wow. Thanks. Hi, Ranger. Oh yeah, people are nasty. Kids are nasty, man. The one saving grace being in school in the 90s was, at the very least, there was no like social media stuff, so at least all of the like bullying and stuff, it stopped once I got home. It couldn't follow me home like it seems to nowadays. Like there was like beginning email and MSN and stuff like that, but you had to add people on MSN. They couldn't just like show up and bug you. So if I saw people that like quite obviously like that I didn't know at all, I'm like, yeah, I'm not adding you. I'm not adding you. I remember once I was in a rush in the morning and I forgot to put a tank top under my shirt. And you know how schools are about like any kind of like cleavage or whatever. I'm basically flat as a board, but you know, there was just barely any. And all these people that I hadn't talked to in ages from elementary school tried to add me on MSN and stuff just so they could shame me. I'm like, what's the matter with you? Oh my god, you barely survived Minecraft duel? Welcome back. And what happened to my head? Nothing, I just put my bangs up. I figured at least one person would be like, Diana, what happened to you? MSN, yeah, before Skype. Back when, you know, there was actually a character limit on messages you could send. So God forbid you wanted to make a big rant kind of thing. You'd have to put like part 1 at the end of the message so people wouldn't cut you off. You like my hair? Thank you. I like it too. It's fun to change it up a bit. It's the one bonus of buying one of those pre-made models that include a lot of different toggles and stuff. Because once you buy a custom model, your only options are what you paid for. So if you didn't pay for a second outfit or anything like that, it's like, well, you're just stuck like this. No clothes changing for you. Let me give your forehead a good whack. Do not touch my forehead! You whack my forehead, I slap you across the face. Y'all are terrible. I was wondering if anyone was gonna make a big forehead joke because all of y'all grew up watching Naruto. And I remember Sakura always got made fun of for not having bangs and having a big forehead. Looks so whackable though. Terrible. You come if you can still chill in my hair to sleep, but if you get any bright ideas, I am going to fling you at the window. You were going to, but the style is valid. Hey, it's fine. Yes. Sometimes it is literally just an issue with the hairline. Because my hairline's not as bad as, like, because they call it a widow's peak, where you have, like, where you have the middle of your forehead, the hairline comes forward just a little bit more. I have one of those. So yeah, depending how I put my hair up, it can look really off. But, like, if you know what you're doing, then it's fine. Style's adorable and you're a big fan. You just weren't expecting it for starts to give it a big slap. Y'all. Why does this make me think of some of the stuff my friends have said? They're like, yeah, we know sexuality isn't a choice because why would I date men? Somehow that's making me think of that. I'm like, man, I'm glad I don't do that. Oh, what was it that I was talking to a tuner about recently? Oh, it's like some kid was trying to sublet his apartment because, like, Iduna works in, like, housing stuff. Some kid was trying to sublet his apartment and they found out he was late on rent. And he put a hole in, and there was, like, a hole in the wall. And I'm like, is it wrong? I instantly thought of the, like, kids need to stop punching holes in walls and anger. And she's like, that's exactly what had happened. Strike a pose? Okay, hopefully you got that. God. Y'all gonna put stuff on my forehead, aren't you? I know it. I know it. Oh, good grief. Children! You'll make it later, okay. We've got... Oi! That's vile. That's foul. If I come on stream tomorrow with a mask on my face, it's your fault. That's a whole runway? Yo! Oh my god. It's Bully Diana hours. Terrible. Terrible! Why is it just you two clowns today, huh? We need... Well, I don't know. Maybe having more people would make this worse. Maybe all of y'all just skate up on me and I'm like, you know what? I'm leaving. Bye. It hurts when you laugh. Oh, goddamn. First of all, I'm glad you're so amused. Second of all, that's karma, bitch. You should have read that spot out. To whom? For what? Forehead kisses? The forehead is here so Spooky can go mwah. Or other cute girls. Iduna, Spooky. Junie. And now we've got the rain sound while y'all are torturing me. Alrighty. Supposedly some murdering's supposed to be starting soon. I guess we will find out. Gotta take the cars for a lap. Wow. God. You're done. You sure? You sure? I can tell y'all have sisters. I can tell. I can tell. These lines seem well practiced. Some elite memes? Alright, well, at least we get something out of my suffering. At least we get content, right? Your sister's head is huge. Foul! Foul! My god! I knew it. She frickin' hates you? I wonder why. Brothers, man. Simultaneously, they will bully you until you're crying in the bathroom. But God forbid some kid at school's the one that made you cry in the bathroom. They will whoop their ass. I remember way back in the day, because Big Bro Amelis is 13 years older than I am. And the kid next door broke my heart. We were like 5 years old. And Big Bro Amelis, like, Mama Amelis had to stop Big Bro from going over to talk to this kid. And Mama Amelis is like, Eric. We're just calling him Eric. Eric, you're 17. This kid is 5. You can't do that. It's like, chill. It's like, it's sweet that you're upset that she's so upset, but this is not the solution here. All right. Speaking of all these siblings and stuff, back to the cousins. Let's see who survives the night. Me. I warmed up before stream and then I spent all this time laughing, so I don't know if it's held up. We'll find out. Excuse me. It seems the weather will be like this all day tomorrow after all. That's pure love, right? Dane, this makes the good weather we had earlier feel like a lie. You're gonna have a field day in Photoshop? Oh no. You know, plushies are expensive, but talking about the tic-tac-toe things just make me think of, you know, back in the day when there were dolls and stuff that had, like, you know, washable markers and stuff like that. I'm just imagining, like, a Dee Dee doll and you could play tic-tac-toe on the forehead. George Aniki and I were killing time in front of the parlor television. At that point, Jessica returned. Her face was still blank, but it looked like she'd calmed down a little since we'd last seen her. Is Maria still in front of the portrait? Nope. She just came back and she's sleeping over there on the sofa. It's getting pretty late for her after all. Looking at the clock, I saw it was a little past 10 p.m. Even if we were planning to stay up all night, it was about time to head back to our room. Well, my mom did have a room prepared for us in the mansion. What'll we do? I'd rather head back to the guest house. Going by what we saw of our parents, I think it'd be better if we weren't in the mansion. Yeah, you guys might actually survive. I agree. Feels like they're telling us kids to mind our own business and stay out of their way. Let's be good little boys and girls and do that. As we were talking about this, Aunt Rosa came into the parlor. She was looking all over restlessly, probably trying to find Maria. Aunt Rosa, if you're looking for Maria, she's over there on the sofa. Oh, thank you. My, she's out cold. You must move her to her bed. If you'd like, I'll carry her over to her bed. Thanks, that would be wonderful. Are you all heading back to the guest house? Or are you going to stay in the room Natsuhine-san had prepared here? We were just talking about that. We just decided to head over to the guest house. This made your entire day? I'm glad. I know you guys are just teasing. Don't worry. If I really felt like I was being bullied, I would have ended the stream. Like, you know what? Fine. I'll put the bangs down. I see. Then could I ask you to take Maria with you? I'd feel much more reassured if she stays with all of you cousins. Behind those words, she seemed to be concealing some regret that the adults, herself included, had deeply hurt Maria's feelings. Leave it to us, Aunt Rosa. After all, we do have an expert at comforting Maria with us. Are you talking about me? I couldn't do it myself. We'll need everyone together. That's right. Battler, weren't you the one who hit it off with Maria when you were messing around earlier? As we said this, Aunt Rosa smiled, looking truly happy. Thank you, everyone. It looks like our meeting will last until very late. So while I'm sorry to burden you like this, I'll be counting on you all to take care of Maria. Hey, Maria, are you sound asleep? We're going back to the guest house. Maria muttered something indistinct, rolled over, and fell back asleep. It looked like she was sleeping deeply. Oh, she's really out cold. I'd hate to wake her. Right, I'll carry her. Good on you, nerd. You can carry the 30-pound girl. Congratulations. Maria's body was much lighter than it looked. I lifted her up and put her on George Aniki's back. Hope I'm doing great? Yeah! I had a pretty good day. I, had like a 20 minutes cat nap after work to reset my brain. And then I was gonna, like, try and make some dinner, and I was like, you know what? I've been really good this week. I have spent no money. I'm gonna order pizza. So I had some pizza. It's a good day. It was raining hard outside, and Aniki couldn't hold an umbrella and carry Maria at the same time. It looked like Aunt Rosa would come with us as far as the guest house to help out. However, when she heard Uncle Klaus's voice call out to her, she had no choice but to return. Now that's a problem. I have to go back now. Is everyone returning to the guest house? After we left the hall, on the way to the entrance, the door to the servant room opened, and Shannon-chan stepped out. It has grown very dark, so allow me to guide you. That would be great, Shannon-chan. George-kun is going to carry Maria there. Could you hold an umbrella for him? Yes, certainly. Shannon-chan brought umbrellas for each of us and a flashlight to guide the way. Why is this just making me think of Raging Loop, where like, Haru and all of them got found out for being wolves because she had a flashlight? As we opened the front door, the downpour was quite terrific. It looked like we wouldn't have any spare time to take a pleasant walk and enjoy the nighttime rose garden. Aniki, is she too heavy? Want me to carry her? It's okay. I can at least carry Maria-chan. I'm truly grateful. Please take care of Maria. Sure, you got it. Then I guess this is good night, Aunt Rosa. Then I will see them over there and return here. Yes, please. Aunt Rosa watched us leave. Maria, I'm sorry for everything. Rosa's mumbling voice didn't reach the person in question, nor any of the kids, but disappeared beneath the sound of the rain. This is some great ASMR to sleep to. After cutting through the rainy rose garden, we arrived at the guest house. Ah, if only I'd applied for the position of Maria carrier. Then I would have gotten a chance to have Shannon-chan leaning against my arm. That's not why I did it. It's a misunderstanding. I thought that if I didn't walk like this, George-sama would get all wet. Come on, quick babbling and go in. After being urged on by Jessica, we folded up our umbrellas and went into the guest house. Has anyone gotten their clothes wet? I can bring some towels if you want. You don't need to worry about us that much. Thanks, Shannon-chan. Ah, that's right. We were planning to play cards or something. Would you care to join us for a bit? Huh? Who had the night shift on today's schedule? I believe we had a special schedule during the family conference. Also, I think a few alterations have been made, so I will go and check. Wait, if you have to go all the way back to the mansion to find out, don't force yourself. Oh, that's all right. I can find out from the servant room in the guest house. Please excuse me for a short while. Shannon-chan gave a quick bow and went into the guest house servant room. The rest of us headed for the cousin room and decided to put Maria to bed for the time being. Maria was sleeping very deeply, and there was absolutely no sign of her eyes opening. For now, we'd get some soft drinks out of the room's refrigerator and drink those while playing cards or something. Oh! Kanon-kun? And you're here too, Genji-sama. What has happened with tonight's shift? Kraus-sama has given an order. He made some sizable changes to the shift schedule. Indeed, Godo-sama now has the night shift at the mansion. Shannon and Kanon have the night shift in the guest house. Kumasawa-san and I have been ordered to sleep in the guest house. Just now, a phone call came saying that once you arrived, you were also to remain here for the rest of the night. Huh? That certainly is a sizable change. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion have been completely reversed, haven't they? Originally, Shannon and Kanon had been assigned the night shift in the mansion, while the night shift in the guest house, where all of the relatives had been staying, had been assigned to Goda, who had an abundance of experience in entertaining. Kumasawa should have been sleeping at the guest house, while Genji should have been sleeping at the mansion. However, it seemed that Kraus had suddenly ordered that the schedule be modified. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion had all been reversed, and Genji was spending the night in the guest house. It's probably because of Beatrice Sama's letter. Oh yeah, the siblings are gonna murder each other. Good times. Either that, or they wanted everyone gone so no one could overhear them trying to solve the epitaph. Why probably? After such a mysterious letter appeared, it was only natural that Kraus-sama would suspect one of us. He served directly under the master, so Kraus-sama tried as best he could to keep us far away from the family conference. Genji, Shannon, and Kanon were all permitted to wear the Ushinomiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, as the servants who served directly under Kinzo. Of course, since they were working for the Ushinomiya family, they had to obey anyone's orders, but their only boss was Kinzo. Since only Kinzo held the right to employ them, even Kraus could not have them dismissed of his own accord. Because of this, Kraus and the others often viewed these servants as Kinzo's underlings and shunned them. And in fact, Kinzo seldom let anyone other than them enter his study. The sudden shift change was probably a clear expression of the sense of mistrust that had caused. Considering the time Kinzo had left to live, this would definitely be the last family conference before the problem of the inheritance came up. On top of that, the mysterious letter that claimed to be from Beatrice had dropped in out of the blue. Kraus definitely wanted to keep Kinzo's loyal subjects away from the table of such a delicate and important discussion. If you would excuse me, I will go rest. If anything happens, call me immediately. Our guest tonight is a special case, after all. Yes, certainly, Genji-sama. Genji nodded back, went behind a screen, took off his jacket, and slowly began to relax after a day's worth of tension. The ones who just returned now, were they the children? Yes. The other relatives are having a conference in the mansion. It looked like it would drag on for quite some time. Then we've got it easy. It's already this late, and there's this weather. The rest of the relatives will probably spend the night in their rooms in the mansion. Yes, probably. I'm only saying this because Genji-sama isn't around. But I'm a little happy I was sent to the guest house. I guess. Oh? Why is that? Because you can stay away from Madame and Ava-sama, those bullies? Or do you have another reason? It's not as though I have another reason. Liar. I see. Then, let's do our best together with our night shift. I'm counting on you, Nai-san. Just now, I was asked to go to the children's room and play with them. Shannon hung her head apologetically, gazing at Kanon uncertainly. Kanon didn't try to meet her eyes and spoke curtly as he sighed. It looked like he didn't plan on indulging his sister. You can't. You were assigned to the night shift. Besides which, it isn't necessary for furniture like us to respond to an invitation to play. You understand, right? Yes, I do understand. Shannon's shoulders drooped slightly. She had already expected that Kanon, a stickler for the rules, would say something like this, but she still seemed a little discouraged. As Kanon flipped through her logbook, he spoke without facing Shannon. That means the children will be waiting for you. You'll have to apologize and tell them you have the night shift and won't be able to stay with them. Go and come back. Huh? Yes. I'll go apologize and come back. Shannon hurriedly stood from her seat before her brother's mood could change and flew out of the servants' room after giving a quick bow. As he watched her go, Kanon took a single deep breath. Genji's voice came from beyond the screen. Kanon, I will be here, so you can go too. Genji-sama? Shannon was the only one called. It's not as though I was invited. That is only because you were not there at the time. If you had been, you would have been invited as well. It is good to play as a child from time to time. No, such a thing is not necessary for me. Human children may have a need to play, but I'm furniture. But we are furniture. Is that so? Nasan is also furniture. Even if she pretends to be a person, it will only hurt her later. I understand that, so I try not to get too close to people. That's all. Genji did not say anything after that. After a while, he stood up and used a pot of hot water to make powdered cocoa, serving some to Kanon as well. Ooh, hot cocoa. Is that for real? I had no clue. Dumbass, you're too loud. You'll wake Maria up. Butler was so surprised that he yelled obnoxiously and scattered his cards everywhere. His voice caused Maria to turn over once, but she soon fell back into a deep sleep. Jessica gave him a jab, and he lowered his voice. Still, seriously, now that you mention it, they really did have that kind of atmosphere, didn't they? Now I see. So George Anaki is... George couldn't be seen anywhere in the room. A short while ago, when Shannon-chan came into the room, George suddenly said that he'd forgotten something in the mansion and needed to go back and get it. Shannon said she would guide him, just like she had on the way to the guest house, and the two of them departed together. Well, there's actually been signs of it for a while now. You know, questions about hobbies and favorite things. I always thought it was a bit much for her passing interest, and look what happened now. Oh, George is gonna die. Poor George. Come to think of it, I get the feeling George Anaki's always been overly nice to Shannon-chan. Now I get it. According to the weather report, it looks like it'll be at its worst tonight. It also seems like it'll last all day tomorrow, though it should get a little better. Really? Then maybe the boat won't arrive until the day after tomorrow. I hope that doesn't interfere with your work on Monday. I already knew the typhoon would be coming beforehand. Just in case, I made sure I didn't have any plans for Monday, so it's okay. I may not look it, but I really am the type who can plan ahead in his schedule. George puffed out his chest, acting proud. Compared to the calm appearance George always had as the oldest cousin, he now looked amusingly like a little kid. Shannon chuckled at this abrupt contrast. It's no surprise you're so well prepared, as someone who'll bring prosperity to his company someday. Well, making a company prosper really is a tough job. Money isn't the only thing that's important. They're hanging out in some, like, gazebo. They're off in their own little world. I learned that well while studying under my father. Making a company prosper is like owning a castle and leading your subordinates. My dad really loves reading about great leaders during the warring period of Japan. A hobby that's probably influenced by the fact that he shares his name, that he shares Toyotomi Hideyoshi's name. I was wondering if Hideyoshi was a reference to Toyotomi. much of his philosophy on managing businesses comes from talking about them. I forget exactly how Toyotomi fit into the politics of the Warring States period, but I do remember he was like a great... one of like the... what's the word I'm looking for? One of the top candidates that was expected to become shogun, though the Tokugawas are the ones who ended up winning. Takeda Shingen, who was feared as the leader of the strongest cavalry corps in the warring period, started out with his troops in complete disarray, and didn't have the kind of strong leadership necessary to utilize them well. Is that true? That's a little unexpected. In order to unite his troops, Shingen showed his excellent leadership in many ways. Takeda Shingen. I think what little I know about this guy was from the version of him that's in Fate Grand Order. I'm like, that name sounds familiar, but I can't remember exactly. For example, when a soldier succeeded well in battle, he would immediately honor them with a medal. Normally, that kind of thing was put off until after the war, and they were all awarded at once. He continued this diligently while on the field of battle, and immediately showing his appreciation of his troops' military exploits motivated them in an extremely significant fashion. Everybody likes to be praised. Also, whenever one of his troops was brought down by an illness, he would be the first to rush up to them and care for them, and so on. Takeda Shingen wasn't just the man who led the strongest cavalry corps in the warring period. He was the person who cared the most for his troops throughout that era. And because he was that kind of person, all of his troops went along with him. The truth was, Shannon had already heard this story several years ago. But whenever a discussion of his father led to this sort of topic, George would always glow and look like he was having a great time. Shannon just smiled without interrupting, urging him to continue. Of course, in a capitalist world, money determines both your strength and the height of your fortifications. But you can't build up a castle and succeed in war by yourself. Such things can only be accomplished with the support of many subordinates by borrowing their strength. After understanding this, when I look at my father's back, I realize how immature I am. I can clearly see how much competition he had to overcome before building up all he has now. George-sama, you truly look up to your father. I'm jealous. Sorry, that's not how I meant it. I'm sorry, that's not how I meant it either. The two of them awkwardly looked at their feet. Oh my god, come on guys, one of you's gotta take the initiative. Shannon had no parents. She had been brought up in an orphanage owned by Kinzo called the Fukuin House. Wealthy sound? Or like fortunate sound? Under the guidance of Kinzo, their honorary director, the orphanage offered members who excelled a chance for on-the-job servant experience. If their efforts met with Kinzo's approval, they'd be able to leave the orphanage and work as servants for the Ushinomiya family. Well, that's one way to foster loyalty. This was considered to be the highest honor for those who lived in the orphanage. Servants from the Fukuin house all took names with the character owned in them while they served. Ah, so that's why we've got Shannon and Kanon. Makes sense. So Shannon wasn't her real name. Makes sense. The same went for Kanon. all of the members of the Fukuin house were orphans. At least, they were all people who had been separated from their parents under special circumstances. Because of this, the orphans had been taught to think of each other as their only family. That's why it seemed so natural to both of them when Kanon called Shannon his sister. And while both Shannon and Kanon were working in the mansion today, forehead Shiwa, god damn it! Hi, Min. Sorry. And while both Shannon and Kanon were working in the mansion today, there were several other servants possessing their own character in their names, such as Manon and Lennon, who often worked in a rotation schedule. Oh, Lennon! That would actually be a cute name, because it's the kanji for love and sound. I like that one. However, there were not many servants who stayed with the Ushinomiya family for long. It was standard for them to quit after 3 years. So you could probably say that Shannon, who had been working for 10 years, was a notable exception to the rule. They can't stand Kinzo for that long. Working as a servant for the Ushinomiya family was a heavy burden to bear, but the pay wasn't bad at all. Working for a full 3 years would earn more than what was needed to enter mainstream society. That was why, even though the orphans realized what a harsh task working for the Ushinomiya family was, they still hoped to be accepted. Maybe the fact that Shannon managed to continue working for 10 years, was it because she had more willpower than the other servants? Maybe she got stuck working for 10 years because she did have the courage to say she wanted to quit. Kinzo couldn't even trust his own blood servants. Blood relatives. And these excellent servants sent from the Fukuin house were the only ones he could rely on. Because of that, Kinzo would sometimes allow them to wear the family crest as servants under his direct control and have them work close to him. You've been working here for almost 10 years now, right? You must have saved up a lot of money by now. I wonder. It's not like there's anything in particular I'd like to buy. After all, a few million yen isn't enough to live off of for the rest of your life. So the reason you've been working all this time, was it to hit some target sum? Yes, that's right. I have nowhere to go outside this mansion, and I have been getting along well with Milady and the other young servants. The madame does scold me sometimes, but caring for the roses and cleaning the mansion is fun. But... he knows her real name! Oh my goodness! But I can't be your entire life, Shannon-chan. No, Sayol-chan. So the Sa in Sayol is the same as the Sha in Shannon? Shannon-chan cast her eyes downwards when she heard her real name. She understood what George was trying to say and fell silent. There's something I've learned as I continue to study even after becoming an adult and a full-fledged member of society. A human's life is not as monotonous or short as we thought when we were kids. All school-aged kids have certain fears they can't shake. They wonder whether they'll live the rest of their lives like sleepy classes after a monotonous and boring school day, spending their time in carefree laziness without anything interesting happening until it's all over. However, life's only like that for underage students. Compared to a human's life, the time they spend as students is nothing more than the blink of an eye, a period where they break through the shells of their immaturity. The inside of the shell might be a hot, suffocating, and boring world. But the world beyond that shell is filled with limitless possibilities. So far, your life has been trapped inside the shell called Shannon. I think you're under the mistaken impression that your life will continue like this forever. That's... Shannon couldn't deny those words. She'd been unable to harbor any clear doubts about her lifestyle. And since she never had any hope or goals for herself, she'd lazily continue living the way she'd always had. And if asked whether this life was satisfying, she wouldn't have been able to nod. She may have been intentionally averting her eyes from the truth. Without George's admonishments, she would have continued pretending not to notice as her real life slipped away bit by bit, neglected. George-sama, is it wrong for me to continue living this way?
Yes, it is? Wow! That's none of your business, buddy. If that's how she wants to spend her life, then let her.
Oh, and by the way, didn't you break one of our rules just now? George immediately gave a strict answer, then broke out in a mischievous smile. Shannon already knew what she was being chided for, and she hung her head again, apparently embarrassed. Did you promise not to use Sama when the two of us are alone? I couldn't obey that as a promise. But if it was an order, I would have to obey it. Because I'm furniture. Then it's an order. Yes, certainly. George-san. Yes, that's fine, Sayo-chan. George smiled at Shannon, no, Sayo, to praise her small act of bravery. The short exchange alone made it clear how far back their relationship must have stretched. For a little, long while, the two talked as if the weather raging about them didn't even enter their thoughts. They talked about the many memories they'd built during their relationship that no one else knew about. Every once in a while, a flash of lightning would attempt to interrupt them, but this could hardly sully neither the roses nor the time they spent blushing at each other. Now what could possibly go wrong? That's right. I have something I wanted to show you. What could it be? George, who had been speaking eloquently, suddenly started to stutter. Is he proposing? Is that what's happening? You think your mother's gonna let you propose to her servant? Watching him, Shannon seemed to guess something. George timidly searched through his pocket.
Am I right? Art! Thank you for the redo! If I'm right, you're just in time to watch this really awkward marriage proposal.
Hello. How was Yumiya? How's been Yumiya going? I haven't played it in a while. A new hairstyle? Yeah, I put my hair up. Because, it's summertime. It's so fun. I'm glad. I need to get back to Yumiya. It's just a nice game to play when you're in the mood for something a little nice and aimless. You're so invested? Oh, you found the plot, huh? You found the plot.
Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get there one day. We'll get there one day. And to any raiders, I apologize. Ad break's gonna kick in about 30 seconds, but that's okay. No one wants to see George be weird and propose to this girl. He really thinks his mother's gonna let him marry a servant? Bad things gonna happen, man. Bad things. For now, you're gonna rest. You may be back. Okie dokie. You rest up if you need to. Have a good one. Okay. Don't destroy your sleep schedule. Though it's 8 p.m. It's not the worst time to fall asleep if you're like super exhausted, but yeah. You won't for right now. For right now. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Alrighty. Now, George, what are you doing? George timidly searched through his pocket. Something got caught in the depths of his pocket, and just like the stuttering George, it took a little while to get it out. I was right. You're really proposing to a girl you only see once a year? That's crazy. It was a very small box. A small box covered in a deep blue velvet. That peculiar shape was enough to tell anyone what was resting inside. Shannon had prepared her hut somewhat, certain beforehand that this was what he'd been planning. But even so, when she actually saw it, she couldn't avoid blushing once more. George opened the small box, took something else, and held it out for Shannon to take. I want you to take this. I couldn't accept something so valuable. You can't take it? No, I'm unworthy of such a thing. Sayo, this isn't a request. You're gonna order her to marry you? Wow, so romantic. Take this ring. Okay. That's crazy. If it's an order, I cannot disobey. A beautiful marriage. Yeah, that's right. Well done. Shauna, not wanting to show her bright red face, timidly accepted the ring from George's hand while still staring at the ground. You're supposed to put it on her, you loser. That ring wasn't a simple accessory. It was a noble object, meant since ancient times to be offered to a special woman under special circumstances, or man. It's the 21st century. Therefore, while George could order her to take it, he could not order anything beyond that. Anything beyond that would depend, not on an order, but on Shannon's, no, Sayo's own will. So, from here on, I'm not ordering you anymore. Sayo, I want you to give me your answer by tomorrow, without using words. Do you understand? How should I? I won't order you any further, so this isn't an order. But a ring is something you put on your finger, after all. If you like it, you can just put it on any finger you choose. Shannon had only pretended not to know. She already understood what he wanted her to do. But she was standing at a huge crossroads of her life. Look how late it's gotten. Let's call it a day. George turned away from Shannon, acting just a bit bluntly. I could probably order you to wear it on your left hand.
You might be timid and dependent enough to actually obey that kind of order. But I want at least this last step to be done by your own will, Sayal. Understand? Yes. So that's my order. I want you to think about it well tonight and show me your answer tomorrow. Shauna nodded back. Today was the culmination of their many days spent together. This moment certainly hadn't come as a surprise to Shannon. We should be getting back to the guest house soon. If we take any longer, we'll make everyone worry about us.
Oh, they're already worried.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just remembered something I had to do in the mansion, so, I have to go back. At a time like this? Is that true? George stared into Shannon's face as he laughed mischievously. He definitely saw through Shannon's lie. However, when he saw how she felt, he could sort of understand that she might be so embarrassed that she'd want to be alone. So, because George realized the meaning behind Shannon's lie, he accepted it.
And just like that, their relationship shattered. 11 p.m.
Shannon entered the entrance hall to the mansion with a tottering gait. A mixture of
I cannot speak today. Excitement. We'll just go with that. That's what it means anyway.
An uncertainty gave her a feeling that she couldn't easily describe. It swelled up in her chest until it felt like she was about to burst. After stopping for a second in front of the servant room to take a deep breath and calm her heart, she opened the door. Inside, Goda, who had been ordered to take the midnight shift at the mansion tonight, was absorbed in a worn-out crossword puzzle magazine. He looked up for an instant to see if one of the family had come, but when he realized it was a fellow servant, he returned to his puzzle as if nothing had happened. Genji-sama told me to come and help you. Ah, is that so? That's a relief. I was just about to go check that the mansion was fully locked up, but I felt uneasy about leaving this room unmanned. After all, Kraus-sama and the others' meeting looks as though it will continue for quite some time. They might request some tea at any moment. That's true. Then what shall we do? Should I watch over? In that case, forgive me, Shannon, but I'll ask you to patrol the mansion.
Of course he's not going to let her prepare the tea. He wants all the glory for himself.
I will stay here, awaiting the family's orders. Yes. Shannon was slightly disgusted. Even though she'd come here to help out as a favor, she was casually being forced to do the job of the person actually on duty. Furthermore, after one-sidedly forcing the task on her, Goda returned to his magazine once again and became immersed in his crossword puzzle. Shannon bowed her head as a token sign of respect for her elder, then left the room to patrol the mansion. Thanks to her being a bit ticked off, she managed to suppress that floaty feeling she'd been having until just now. And anyway, she couldn't let Genji or Kanon see her looking like this. She wanted a little time to herself until her heart calmed down. So maybe going on patrol wouldn't be so bad.
Why are there seagulls at 11 p.m. at night?
She began to hear the tumultuous voices of the family discussion coming from the dining hall. Someone was speaking at great length, only to be interrupted by someone else. The second person also began to speak in a very long, drawn-out fashion until yet another person interrupted. That kept on repeating. It was as though their displeasure was seeping out through their voices. She had been told to go to the guest house, so it would be bad if Kraus discovered her. Thinking this, Shannon dashed past the dining hall. Then she went along a prearranged route through the dark mansion, checking that all the locks were secure. She walked down the hall, checking each window. Hello, Butter. I'm good. Hope you're doing well. Also, there were no humans on Rokinjima other than those connected to the family. So, locking up didn't really serve much of a purpose. No one had been in the habit of locking up at the Ushido-miya head family. At least not until Natsuki had scolded them for being careless. The metal fixtures on the windows were ice cold, and as she checked them one by one, the glow in her heart seemed to cool down. At that time, she thought she saw something twinkling across the hall. Twinkling? How could anything be twinkling through the darkness of the hall? Ooh, and now everything's black and white. She figured she must have been imagining it, but she still held her breath. Grasping a curtain, she fearfully gazed down the hall. However, other than the occasional crack of thunder brightening the hallway, she was unable to glimpse any flicker again. It must have been her imagination after all. Maybe her heart was so agitated that she'd seen something that didn't even exist. Shannon went back to checking the windows. However, a certain unnerving memory was resurrected in the back of her mind. It was that ghost story, which had been passed down amongst the servants who served the Ushido-miya head family. The mansion had two different masters, one of the day and one of the night. Beatrice, the master of the night, would sometimes fly around the mansion in the form of sparkling butterflies. That was the story. Come to think of it, didn't Kanon-kun once say he'd seen it with his own eyes? Though he got sulky when I said he must have imagined it and refused to believe him. Could it possibly be true? The roar of the thunder gave no answer. Do, do, do. I love that piano song. Oh, it's so good. Where are you taking us, game? Where are we going? Hi, ma'am.
We just gonna look at you? Okay. First Diana meme done. Oh no. What's happening? Why are we looking at everybody? Hi, Gramps. Is it time for people to die? Midnight. All the pieces are in place is the achievement I just got. Uh-oh. It's the witching hour. Oh, and we fast forward to 6 a.m. The second day, October 5th, 1986. If anyone was alive in 1986, would raise their hands. I will not be. Genji tightened his bow tie and looked outside through a crack in the curtains. Maybe the rain had died down a tiny bit since the previous night. But the thick rain clouds didn't seem like they'd be letting any trace of the morning sun get by. The morning was dim and far from refreshing. Seems it will last all day after all. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Genji-sama. Kanon finished checking his appearance and exited the washroom. On their normal schedule, it was rare for anyone to have to suffer going straight from a midnight shift to an early morning shift. Yeah, that is borderline abuse. These guys have not slept. They were on a special schedule for the 2 days of the family conference. However, unless the typhoon passed today, the relatives' stay on the island would last until tomorrow. Kanon thought it best to be prepared for the special schedule to last an extra day. The two of them left the guest house, opening their umbrellas. The rose garden had been devastated by the wind and rain on the previous night. Even though they'd spent several days making it beautiful to welcome the guests, one stormy night was enough to ruin it. Kanon sighed. The two headed for the mansion. They were supposed to meet up with Golda and prepare breakfast. Golda was such a perfectionist that he had probably already woken up and was probably already preparing a breakfast as exquisite and elegant as glasswork. But he did? They reached the overhang by the entrance to the mansion and folded up their umbrellas. Genji took a bundle of several keys from his pocket and unlocked the front door. The Ushiromiya family mansion was the only thing on Rokkenjima, so in the past, they hadn't been in the habit of locking up. However, Natsuhi had ordered that the mansion be locked up from midnight to early morning. Ever since then, unlocking the door in the early morning had become part of the servants' morning shift. This task had been given to Genji and Kanon, so that Golda could start preparing breakfast as soon as he woke up. Silence had fallen in the mansion, giving the impression that the mansion itself was still asleep. Well then, let us begin the morning chores. Yes, sir. The two of them split up and began opening the curtains throughout the mansion. If
If the curtain stayed closed, the mansion would remain enveloped in faint darkness, as though it was still trapped in the previous night. Following a well-rehearsed procedure, Kanan went around the mansion, opening the curtains for one window after another without having to retrace his steps once. Even with this horrible weather, drawing the curtains made it feel just a little bit like morning. While doing that, he passed in front of the kitchen. Even though he hadn't smelled anything yet, his stomach started aching for some of Goda's prized cooking. Good morning. He tried to greet Goda, who should have been getting breakfast ready. But Goda was nowhere to be seen.
Someone really did die.
Oh no. The kitchen was darkly lit, and not only were the curtains not open, but the fan wasn't even running. It was still cold, without any trace of a fire being lit. So of course there were no signs of breakfast being made either. Though it would have been inexcusable, perhaps Goda had overslept. Even servants are only human. They sometimes sleep in and show up late. In the rare case that such a thing happens, it's part of a servant's code to hide the unsightly scene before anyone notices, smoothly covering it up, and make sure the family never even realizes that anything has gone wrong. Kanan took the receiver off the phone that had been fitted to the wall and dialed the number for the extension line in the servant's sleeping room. He couldn't hear that characteristic sound of a dial tone. Kanan tried picking up the receiver again, but even so, he couldn't hear the usual dial tone. He tried dialing again, but it had no apparent effect. Could the lightning last night have damaged some machine, breaking the extension line? The equipment in this mansion was all worn out. Kanan fully understood that even the smallest thing could have caused it to break down. He gave up trying to wake Goda with the phone and dashed over to the servant's sleeping room.
Uh-oh. When are they gonna find some dead bodies? Things are certainly not looking good.
How long has it been since I stopped sleeping and started lazily staring up at the ceiling? That vague sense of awakening was part of Natsuhi's usual morning experience. She always slept lightly, and she couldn't sleep at all without medicine. To Natsuhi, sleep was definitely not a happy thing. When she looked outside, she saw that it was still pouring. If she hadn't sensed a tiny amount of light, she might have mistakenly thought that it was still the previous night. She herself was one of the hosts, so she mustn't wake up later than her guests. Urging herself on, she raised up her body, which still hadn't completely recovered from yesterday's weariness. No one would torment her as long as she remained inside this room, and her headache wouldn't get any worse. This room was the only place she could find peace, so when she left, it meant returning to the world where her husband's siblings kept trying to stab each other in the back.
Oh, I think there was some actual stabbing happening.
In that case, wouldn't it be better to just stay locked up in this room forever? That ridiculous notion brought a bitter smile to Natsuhi's face. She was starting to sound like Kinzo. Though she often complained about Kinzo staying locked up in his own room and refusing to attend to everyone else, the truth was that she longed to do the same. Natsuhi gave her head a small shake, and her fantasy was replaced by the reawakening of her usual headache.
Also, thank you for the self-care package ranger, hydrate, posture check, stretch, and a head pat.
When she reached for the doorknob, trying to leave the room, her hand touched the scorpion's charm that she had hung from it before going to sleep the previous night. It was Maria's charm, which Natsuhi had received from Jessica. Didn't Jessica say something about it having the power to repel magic? Telling her to hang it from the doorknob? Maybe it was thanks to that charm that at least this room had been protected from the malice of her husband's siblings. As she thought this, her mood began to get a little more cheerful. I wonder if I have Jessica to thank for the little bit of peaceful sleep I managed to receive. Then Natsuhi remembered. That's right. Last night, I promised Jessica that I'd give her a charm of my own in exchange for this one, didn't I? Natsuhi opened a drawer of her dresser and took out an antique accessory case that she had treasured since she was a child. Inside, there were many small objects that Natsuhi had thought were valuable at the time. From amidst those, she pulled out a red pouch. Inside was a small, round mirror about 10 centimeters across. It looked quite old, but the design on the back the mirror was very ornate, and it felt like something with historical value. At the very least, it seemed much more authentic than the other charm, which looked like a plastic scorpion keychain. She had heard that this was a spiritual mirror for warding off evil spirits, and she had been given it specially by her grandmother when her grandfather's mementos had been distributed. It had been believed since long ago that a strange power resided in this mirror. Perhaps people thought it could reflect calamity and malice in the same way it reflected light. Natsuhi returned the mirror to its pouch. It would probably be a fitting object to hand over to Jessica. Just as she was placing it in her pocket, the sound of someone knocking on the door suddenly echoed throughout the room. Yes? Good morning, madame. It is Genji. My apologies for waking you so early. I'm coming now. What is it? No servant had ever come to her this early in the morning, nor had they come to wake her in person. Perhaps something bad had happened. Maybe some fatal oversight had been made while preparing breakfast, something that would shame the household in front of their guests. Natsuhi took a deep breath in anticipation for whatever trouble she was about to hear of. And someone's dead. When she opened the door, Genji once again gave a morning greeting while bowing deeply. Natsuhi tentatively responded. Good morning. Did something happen? My apologies. It would seem that the telephones have broken down due to the lightning last night. The extension telephone isn't working, so please forgive my coming to see you directly. The extension telephone isn't working? That will be troublesome. Will it be possible to fix it? I am afraid we don't know the location of the damage. Later on, I would like to call in an expert and have him repair it. Does that mean we'll be unable to have it repaired until after the typhoon passes? Then it will remain broken down for the duration of our guest's stay.
Has anyone even been using the telephone?
Will that hamper our efforts to care for our guests? We will do all we can to ensure there are no problems. Very well. I'm counting on you to make sure we have no blunders. Natsuhi let out a small sigh of relief. She had been prepared for the worst, but damage to the telephones wasn't the kind of trouble she was worried about. Then again, even this would probably be enough to spark sarcasm from Ava. Natsuhi gave her head a light shake. Are the preparations for breakfast proceeding well? Amadis looks so good with his hairstyle. Thank you, thank you. Where are we in the story? So it is the morning of the second day, chapter 1. So everyone's just waking up. There's been no sign of Goda, so I keep going every time the scene changes. I'm like, is someone dead? Like, is there a dead body? Where's the dead bodies? The arrangements for breakfast. Oh, sorry. Are the preparations for breakfast proceeding well? As to that, we haven't been able to find Goda. The arrangements for breakfast have yet to be carried out. What did you say? Natsuhi was indignant. To her, there was a much bigger problem than the phone's not working. And despite that, this piece of information was the part that had been postponed. Why did everything go well most of the time and then come to something like this when the relatives were visiting? It's because, how's that saying go? God damn, I can't remember the saying, but it's like, not when it rains it pours, but Murphy's Law, that's it. Everything that can't go wrong will. Natsuhi put her hand to her forehead and shook her head. Well, I suppose he slept in. At any rate, just see to it that someone hurries up and prepares breakfast. I don't care who. What? Natsuhi exited the hall and turned around for a second to close the door to her room. The creepy thing she saw there silenced her completely. What? Oh no. I'm afraid. Oh, bloody doorknob. Maria's scorpion charm worked. It was an unpleasant sight, as though someone had dipped their fingers in a reddish black liquid and scratched at the door around the doorknob. It was probably some sort of awful prank, arranged by some person who wanted to make it look as though they tried to force the door with bloody hands. What sort of prank is this? How awful! I also just noticed it as I came to call you. I will clean it later. Perhaps this is a vulgar joke by one of the guests. Disgusting! Truly disgusting! Oh no, this was Goder trying to find someone to save his life. Who in the world would pull such a childish and disgusting prank? Natsuhi had a pretty good idea, but of course, there was no proof. So even if she pushed the issue, it would just seem as though she was making a fuss about nothing. In fact, it would surely be better to act as though she hadn't even realized that such a prank had been played on her. Natsuhi gave the order to have it cleaned and headed off to the parlor with a squeak of her heels. When Natsuhi and Genji arrived in the parlor, Ava and Hideyoshi were already there. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Natsuhi-san. I heard Goda-san would be making us breakfast too. My stomach's been getting all excited since I woke up. After all, it seems food is all you can look forward to at the head family household. Damn.
I'm pleased to see that you two are in high spirits so early in the morning, Ava-san. With a weary expression, Natsuhi returned Ava's gaze, which was fiercely competitive despite the early hour. Then Kanon jogged in. After bowing an apology to the relatives who were running inside the mansion, he noticed Genji and told him something in a small voice. In the dub for Umineko, Hideyoshi had an Osaka accent. I think they did, what is it? They did talk about that at the beginning. That, like, he's not from Osaka, but he fakes the accent because in business you want to stand out in a way. And so he fakes having an Osaka accent. And then anytime he runs into someone who's actually from Kansai, he gets nervous and starts speaking in standard Japanese again. It's like putting on a fake southern drawl to try and attract girls or something. Kanon, have you still not found Goda? My apologies, madame. I went all over the inside of the mansion and the guest house, but I still haven't found him. Where in the world has he gone? At any rate, breakfast is a higher priority than finding Goda right now. See to it immediately. Umineko Gold Edition was a cancelled attempt to give Umineko a full English dub, and in that they did give him an accent from the southern US. I mean, that's usually how they decide to dub Kansai Ben. Really, any kind of accent would work. Considering Osaka Ben is supposed to sound kind of rough and tumble, doing like the Jersey accent like Joey from or like the Brooklyn accent like Joey from Yu-Gi-Oh would also work for Osaka Ben. But I guess like the easy thing to go is like, hey, this is a dialect from the southern Japan, so we'll just use a dialect from southern US. Even though it's, it's not a 1v1 equivalent. Kanon glanced at Genji. It seemed he had something else to report, but was uncertain whether or not the words should come from him. Genji nodded and decided to give the report himself. Madame, it is not only Goda. Your husband is also nowhere to be found. Oh no! Damn, alright. So that's 2 people down. Because what is it? It's supposed to be the key will offer the 6 chosen by the key. So there's supposed to be 6 dead people the first night. My husband? Yes. Even before visiting you, I went to his room to tell him that breakfast wasn't being prepared, but I did not find him there. Furthermore, he is not the only one missing. No! Oh, man! I wonder. Because Rudolph did say he might die tonight, and Rosa did seem to act like she would die. So, I wonder if they knew somehow they were being picked as sacrifice.
So let's see. Kraus, Rudolph, Kyrie, Rosa, Goldel. That's 5. We're missing 1. So probably one of the kids. And or Shannon. Though they might be though Shannon might be saved for the next night because of George. Not in the guest house? Nor the mansion? Yes. They were not in their rooms in the guest house either. When she heard that Goda alone was missing... What? God. When she heard that Goda alone was missing, she'd assumed he had slept in or was loafing around somewhere. However, now that she'd learned that several of the relatives were also nowhere to be seen, she began to take a slightly more optimistic view. Could last night's family conference have continued all night, up until the present moment? If so, they might have wanted to cool their heads after being shut in a stuffy room, going out for walks on their own throughout the rain. The part about cooling their heads really sounded like something Kraus would say. Goda had probably been summoned to accompany them and aid them in some way. Goda was not a man who lost track of time. He had to understand that preparations for breakfast would be hindered if he did not return. However, maybe the family conference had continued until this very moment, with an atmosphere that would make it hard for anyone to slip out. Yes, that theory would be quite convincing for Natsuhi. She remembered the illusion she'd felt that morning, as though the previous night had never ended. When she learned that that feeling wasn't just an illusion, she once again took a deep, weary breath. After all, that banquet of filthy vultures circling Kinzo's property was still going on. Is it though? Is it really? Bum, bum. Perhaps they are still discussing their inheritance somewhere in the garden, or maybe the beach. At any rate, if we don't call Goda back, we'll never be able to begin preparations for breakfast. So what are you saying? Are Nissan and the rest still continuing their discussion? She had planned to say it in a small voice, but Hideyoshi overheard Natsuhi and managed to grasp the situation. Whoopsie doodle. Learn to use your inside voice. Nissan and Rudolph sure are tough. Maybe it's just youth in Rose's case? Just a bit after midnight, the two of us were so tired that we headed back to bed. Though I do remember that Nissan and the rest were still having a heated discussion at that point. Men certainly are unpleasant when they get all fired up. Natsuhi snorted, her face still blank. Kanon, search outside. If you find Goda, tell him to return immediately and begin preparing breakfast. Certainly. Natsuhine-san, we don't know for sure that they're outside, do we? Couldn't they also be inside Father's study? I see. That's certainly possible. I don't know what path their conversation took, but there's certainly a chance they moved to Father's study and let him in on the discussion. I can't imagine Father would willingly let them bring such a detestable topic into his study. You really think so? Well, then there's nothing we can do.
I'm sorry, Genji-san and Kanan-kun, but could you search outside? And would it be that strange for Nissan to suggest they go outside for a walk to cool their heads? Even in this weather. I'll go to Father's study. Who knows, they might actually be there after all. Ava-san, I couldn't ask a guest like you to exert herself so. I will go. I can also wish him a good morning while I'm at it. Oh, then I'll leave it in your hands. Though I somehow doubt he'll return your greeting. Natsuhine-san, have you always been on such good terms with Father? I don't know whether you could call it that. But I am sure that I have gained his trust as the wife of the successor to the Ushiromiya family. And I'm sure he'll at least answer you, right? I'd like to at least have breakfast with Father. Do you think you could convince him to come down and join us? It seems that he thoroughly despises the rest of us, but I'm sure he'll listen to you if he trusts you that much. Oh, God.
Ava, you really need to chill.
After speaking so boldly, if you're unable to convince Father and come down alone, then I doubt you'll ever be able to claim that you've earned his trust again. I am not confident, but I will try. Natsuhi responded, looking discouraged. However, knowing Kinzo's temperament, she had absolutely no confidence in her ability to bring him out. Ava was clearly mocking her, confident that Natsuhi wouldn't be able to get Kinzo to come down. Even so, Natsuhi would lose face if she gave up, saying it was impossible and letting Ava go instead. Ava's mean-spirited and unreasonable demand made Natsuhi clench her fists slightly. When Genji realized this, he spoke softly to her over her shoulder. Madame, please take this if you would. And this is? Genji handed Natsuhi a sparkling gold key of ornate design. It was the key to Kinzo's study. The study had an auto lock and couldn't be unlocked as long as Kinzo forbade entrance. However, since Genji was especially trusted by Kinzo, he was allowed to carry a key to that door. But if this key is used, won't you also receive the blame? When the master is sleeping deeply, simply knocking on the door will not suffice. And it would be more difficult to persuade a master to leave his room if you must talk through the door. Please use this. Genji? Until now, Natsuhi had thought of Genji as a cold servant who wouldn't do anything for her since he worked directly under Kinzo, but it looked like she would have to alter her understanding of him. She wanted to communicate her gratitude, but by then, Genji had already turned his back on her and was walking down the corridor with Kanon. But as Natsuhi watched them go, the words directed at her from behind were sneering. Well then, you must bring Father with you, okay? After all, it's his son's precious wife who's asking. I'm sure he'll listen to you.
I can't stand Ava.
We're guests, so we'll just relax here at our leisure.
Quit it, Ava. You're taking this too far. Sorry, Natsuhine-san, but we're counting on you to deal with Father.
Without answering, Natsuhi forcefully spun around on her heels and quickly left that place.
Kinzo's hangovers must be something else. Literally, I think he probably passes out more than anything. Sleep? No. He just loses consciousness straight up. Hang on one sec. I feel a sneeze coming on. I'm gonna try blowing my nose, see if that gets rid of it. It's been bugging me for a little bit. Okay, I think we're good. Maybe? We'll find out. After all that excitement the previous night, there was no way anyone was going to wake up early. Genji, Aniki, Jessica, and I were snoring loudly on the beds in the cousins' room. But Maria, who had gone straight to bed without joining in, was completely awake. Damn. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, she was met with the loud snoring of the other 3 cousins. For a while, Maria had to think about what had happened. After that, she realized that her mother wasn't with her, and she quickly got lonely. Maria left the cousin room, trying to head to the room that had been arranged for her and her mother. Paying no heed to the 3 who were sleeping soundly, she slammed the door shut. Wow, how considerate. Even I had more consideration than that at 9. In response, Battler mumbled and rolled over in his sleep, but it wasn't enough to wake him up. After a while, Maria returned again, once again, opening the door with a lively bang. Girl! Ugh. When she had left the room, her face had been sleepy, but now that she was back, she looked irritated. Just turn on the TV and watch TV, girl. Oh, God! Why is she like this? After that, she climbed up on Battler's bed, which just happened to be the closest, and started yelling and jumping on it like it was a trampoline. Wake up! Whoa! What? What? Is it an enemy raid? Surround them! After making sure I was awake, Maria moved over to George Oniki's bed and started jumping on that too. In that manner, the 3 of us were all greeted with an extremely pleasant awakening. Thanks for waking us up, Maria-chan. You stopped us from sleeping in after that late night. If only you could have been a bit more gentle about it. George Nissan, you really are an adult. I respect that. Oh, it'll be 7 soon. Oof. 7 a.m. on a rainy night after having a day like that? Yikes. Well, it's not really a bad time to wake up, I guess. Ugh! Mama's not here! It's Rosa? She wasn't in her room? I wonder if she's already woken up and gone to the mansion. Not here! Yes, we understand. Mama! Ooh! Maria kept groaning, ooh, ooh, and looking unhappy. And she did not sing Queen at all. She does not know Bohemian Rhapsody. She didn't exactly seem lonely because her mother wasn't around. It was more like she was irritated and thrown off balance because her mother wasn't where she'd expected. Well, that is also very like a child. If we could just tell her where her mother was, that alone would probably calm her down. But unfortunately, we had no way of knowing where Aunt Rosa was, except that she wasn't here. Anyway, it's time for breakfast, so let's head over to the mansion. That's alright. Maria, let's go to the mansion together, okay? I'm sure Aunt Rosa will be there too. Mama's in the mansion? Then I'll go there. Yeah, guess we should go to the mansion. Who's this? According to everyone else, I'm just a forehead now. Ranger's been making memes of my forehead all evening. This is what I get when I decide to put my hair up for once. Crazy. DD Summer DLC? Exactly! It's getting hot. I don't want my hair on my face. Maria regained her usual composure so completely. Her earlier tantrum now seemed like a lie. We got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion. Summer DLC is a good one, right? Yeah. Ow! Ow! Kinzo-sama! Once more, there was not a knocking sound on the study door, but there was no answer. He seemed to be sleeping still, and I could not wake him. If I went back downstairs and said something like that to Rose, something like that, Ava would probably be amused and triumphant. And even putting Ava aside, it was problematic that Kinzo had stayed shut away during this entire once-a-year conference, never even coming down to greet anyone. Even the family head, no, especially the family head, couldn't fail to make an appearance. I wonder if I could convince him myself. Natsuhi readied herself and used the key that she had borrowed from Genji to open the door. And even though she was prepared for the sweet stench which seemed to eat into one's brain as it poured out the small crack in the door, she couldn't help but grimace. Thinking that he might still be sleeping, Natsuhi entered the room quietly. I thought he was going to be the sixth one who died, but I guess not. When she did, Kinzo was already awake and looking down out of the window. So you're awake. Good morning. How did you get in? Kinzo spoke with his back still facing her. His voice was not harsh, but calm, and Natsuhi was slightly reassured. However, though he was awake, he wouldn't have ignored all that knocking if he was in a good mood. Natsuhi wasn't able to relax. My sincere apologies. I asked Genji-san, and he allowed me to borrow the key to the study. Oh, Genji did. If my friend thought it was that important, then I have no choice but to listen. So, what business do you have with me? Well, breakfast will be ready soon, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would join us. I will eat here. Have it brought here, like always. But father,
The family conference happens only once a year. Please, at least let them see your face. Go back downstairs. Are you asking me to join in as they discuss how to chew up my inheritance after I die? How foolish. Let them speak of such matters as they please without me. And if that's what you call a family conference, it's hardly worth leaving my room for. I am busy. Do not bother me. His last words carried the threat that any further questions would not be appreciated. Natsuhi realized that adding any further pleas would finally bring his wrath down upon her. She did look forward to facing Ava's sarcasm, but there was nothing more Natsuhi could do. Is that so? Understood. I am sure everyone will be sorry to hear it, but I will tell them. Natsuhi decided to give up. Bowing silently, she tried to leave the room before Kinzo's spasmodic temper could flare up. As she did, Kinzo spoke to her. His voice was so calm and gentle, it felt like it came from an entirely different person. Natsuhi? It has been quite some time since you married into the Ushiromiya family. Yes. It has been many years since I was first permitted to bear the name Ushiromiya. Do you sometimes long for your previous family? No. Marriage means abandoning your birth family. Now that's a crazy statement. I am Ushiromiya Natsuhi. The Ushiromiya family is the only family I can come home to. The only one I am fond of. She truly wasn't exaggerating. Such was the resolve she felt. Whenever she applied the Ushiromiya family name to herself. And that's precisely why she was so saddened when her husband didn't treat her like an Ushiromiya, leaving her to race about in vain. If Kraus were a woman, and you his husband... No, I won't say that. What do you mean by that, father? Natsuhi was shocked. If Kinzo's words just now were what they seemed, it would have been more than enough to make up for all she'd suffered up to that point. Forget it. It's just the nonsense of an old man. Kinzo once again faced away from her. He'd told her to forget it, but Natsuhi couldn't help feeling a warmth in her heart. Father, even though Natsuhi, am not connected to you by blood, I am still your daughter. I will most assuredly see to it that your honor and glory and everything you have left behind are protected. You do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle. However, the one-winged eagle is surely engraved in your heart. That is irrefutable proof that you are my blood relative, one who will inherit the glory of the Ushiromiya family. Some will sneer that there is no eagle on your clothes, but such words are not worth lending an ear to. Only those who hold the eagle in their hearts are my true blood relatives. I now consider it an honor that you were welcomed into the Ushiromiya family. Without saying anything more, Kinzo remained with his back to Natsuhi. However, Natsuhi couldn't help but feel something warm well up inside her that she hadn't felt since long ago when she'd been just a child. Natsuhi bowed silently to his back and left the room. Good timing. How is father? You were taking so long, I came to check. When Natsuhi left the study, she saw Ava climbing the stairs, and their eyes met. Ava was smirking unpleasantly, thinking that Natsuhi would leave grudgingly after failing to convince Kinzo. However, the way Natsuhi was now, such a frivolous laugh would not disturb her. She was not permitted to wear the family crest on her clothing, but she was permitted to wear it in her heart. So she spoke calmly, clearly, and confidently, with the dignity of the one who would protect the Ushiromiya family's glory. Father said he would not join in on the family conference. He says he has no interest in discussing such obscene matters. I figured you'd say something like that. If you fail to persuade Father, just say so. How pitiful. I'm beginning to see why Father lamented so. What do you mean by that? Natsuhi did not answer. Just as Kinzo had done earlier, she showed Ava her back as she headed down the stairs. Ava finally realized that she was being made fun of, that something had happened to quickly bolster Natsuhi's confidence. Even so, she apparently did have the courage to risk Kinzo's wrath. Unable to even knock on the door, she could only click her tongue, make a motion as though scratching at it, and follow after Natsuhi. So were Nissan and the rest there? Did you ask Father about them? I didn't get the chance to ask, but they were not inside the study. Father would never let them into the room to discuss such a lowly topic, so it's unlikely he knows where they went. Let us go downstairs and wait for the servants to return from their search. Breakfast may be late, but how would you like some tea, Ava-san? That would be fine. Ava couldn't hide her confusion at the complete difference in Natsuhi's attitude. She was acting so boldly, and while Ava hated to admit it, she even had a sense of dignity about her. Unable to find fault with anything, Ava could only follow Natsuhi back to the parlor. When the two of them returned to the parlor, Hideyoshi had been joined by the 4 children and Nanjo. Genji, who had been talking with Hideyoshi, reported the current situation when he noticed that Natsuhi had returned. You still have not found my husband and the rest. Yes, my apologies. Also, Kumasawa has started preparing breakfast. She said that she will need just a little longer. The clock read a little past 8. 8 should have been the time to start breakfast. Normally, going over that time limit would be a disgrace to the host. Kanon is now searching outside. Also, no one has seen Shannon either. Oh, was she the 6th one then? Damn. Even Shannon's missing? Truly, just how many people did my husband bring with him on his little walk? Just how many people had gone missing by now? 6! What a funny coincidence that is. Now that the number was this large, it was starting to feel truly unpleasant. So the people here were the only ones being left out of something interesting. At least, that seemed to reflect the feelings of the children, and Maria in particular. She was indignant, her stomach grumbling, almost as though her mother and the others had left her alone to go off and eat something delicious without her. Oh, girl. The other children were flipping through the channels on the TV, trying to find a program that might interest Maria and cheer her up again. Nanjo was sitting on the sofa, gazing blissfully at the children while reading a book. It must have been a book about chess. The sound of footsteps came rushing towards them with a pitter-patter. There was only one set, so they realized, before seeing who it belonged to, that it was probably Kanon, not Kraus and the rest. Madame, excuse me. Judging by your appearance, you still haven't been able to find them. My apologies. I still haven't. That will be enough. You've worked hard. She didn't know where they were, but they had to be somewhere on this island. They hadn't had a thing to eat since the previous night, so their stomachs must be growling about now. They'd probably come plodding back on their own accord before long. By now, Natsuhi was thoroughly exasperated and started to feel that there was no reason for them to go out of their way in search. I will go to the kitchen and prepare some tea for all of the guests. Thanks to both of you for all your hard work so early in the morning. Natsuhi left the parlor, acting as though the release in tension had caused a new surge in her headache. Kanon tried to call her back, but Natsuhi left swiftly. What is it? Was there something else? Yes. I was unable to find her husband or anyone else, but, well... Kanon sounded evasive. It looked as though he didn't know where they were, but had spotted something that might be connected to their disappearance. Ava and Hideyoshi noticed this exchange of words and came over. They'd probably picked up on something strange in Kanon's behavior. What's going on, Kanon-kun? Did you find Kraus, Nissan, and everyone else? Actually, the rose-guarded storehouse looked strange. What do you mean? It looked strange. It was, how should I explain it? Kanon hesitated once more. His tone wasn't at all what you would expect from this usually fearless boy. Seeing this, Ava and Hideyoshi looked at each other dubiously. What do you mean? Are you saying Nissan and the others were inside the storehouse? No, I am going to inspect the inside now. I just now came back to get the key, but, I don't really get it, but it sounds like we've just gotta look around inside it. Where's the key to that storehouse? It is in the servant room. Let us check inside the storehouse at once.
What, is it covered in, like, vines? Did, like, Beatrice write, like, Beetle was here on the wall? Like...
Kanon dashed off to the servant room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor saying he would go check, but then Ava and Hideyoshi followed after him. What was there something strange about the storehouse that caused the usually fearless Kanon to hesitate? It was still pouring outside, but perhaps their curiosity about this something that Kanon couldn't talk about won out. While the children made a big fuss watching television, Kanon and the rest dashed over to the entrance. The rose-guarded storehouse was a place that housed various tools used to manage the garden. It was definitely not a pretty building.
I'm just thinking about Higurashi and the other famous storehouse.
Because of its appearance, it had been built so that it was hidden in a corner of the rose garden. Kanon, Genji, Eva, and Hideyoshi came cutting across the rose garden, holding umbrellas. They entered a small path just off the rose garden, which was normally off limits for those appreciating the garden, and was only used by those maintaining it. As they dashed down that, the storehouse came into view in front of them. It was quite an old shed compared to the flawlessly perfect beauty of the rose garden. It was pretty seedy looking. It was easy to understand why it had been built in a hard-to-see place. Eva and Hideyoshi arrived at the storehouse long after Kanon and Genji.
Ah! You two sure are fast. They work on their feet all day. I thought my heart was gonna explode.
I never knew they had a storehouse way over here.
But what is that?
When Eva looked where Kanon was pointing, she was at a loss for words. Noticing this, Hideyoshi also followed Kanon's finger and was likewise too shocked to speak. The entrance to the storehouse was a kind of shutter, and there, everyone suddenly realized why Kanon had been unable to find words to describe what they now saw. On the shutter, which was completely filthy from being exposed to the wind and rain for so long, stuck right on it.
Oh! Some magic circle! Uh-oh!
There was something that looked like a strange, dark red liquid? Mucus?
Mucus? Oh, man. That says a lot about the quality of this substance if they thought it was mucus.
Or maybe it was some sticky paint. An indescribably eerie shape was drawn on the shutter with some kind of ghastly substance. The rain had caused it to drip down like fresh blood leaking from an open wound. No more beating around the bush. Some kind of mark was drawn there, with a ghastly substance that looked like blood. And a shape that seems to suggest something ominous. And this is why you don't do black magic. 2 circles were drawn there, and inside them was a design that looked like a cross. Oh, now I see it. I thought it was multiple circles overlapping, but I guess technically it is a circle with a cross in the inside. The 4 ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, and it looked like some kind of crest from somewhere around Europe. And in the cracks between those shapes, written closely packed together, were some unfamiliar characters or possibly symbols. What a vulgar bit of graffiti. Could this be one of those? One of those magic circles used in demonic ceremonies? It wasn't surprising that Hideyoshi would say that about such a ghastly shape drawn with a deep red dripping substance. When was this made? There was nothing drawn here when I came by yesterday before it started raining. We must do something before anyone else sees this. If they laid eyes upon it, it would cause them great discomfort. That's right. Even though it's just a shed, I wouldn't want to leave such an unpleasant piece of graffiti alone for even a second longer than I had to. There is some paint inside the storehouse. Let us paint over it temporarily as an emergency measure, then repaint it again someday when the weather is good. Genji remembered that he had just recently seen another scribble, and that it had been made with a strange dark red substance of the same color as this. That must have been. That's right, he had seen it on the door to Natsuhi's room. Kanon-kun? Let's remove this scribble quickly and go back, okay? I kind of have to wonder about the translation a bit because, rakugaki can mean graffiti and also it can mean scribble, like sketch. So I'm like, did they mean graffiti? Or just... I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe it just feels weird to call giant magic circle a scribble. Yes, ma'am. I will take care of it immediately. Kanon squatted in front of the shutter and unlocked it. He then lifted it up with all of his strength. A boisterous noise resounded, and the eerie shape drawn on the shutter began to get sucked in through the top as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, the ominous drawing disappeared from their direct gaze, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. Away from that. No! That is evil. Thanks to her kids' program they came across, Maria was feeling much better. Yay for Sunday morning anime. Battler and Jessica were poking fun at the kids' show at every turn, cackling together. George was enjoying the program with Maria from her perspective. Nanjo sat on the sofa by himself, passing the time by reading quietly. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were the footsteps of a single person. Did that mean it wasn't the group of four that had just left? It was Genji. Umineko was like, oh, you want to see what crazy thing happened? Well, let's take a detour to drive you crazy. Yeah, it's good writing, though. It helps build up the suspense. It's infuriating as a reader, but as a writer, I can respect doing it this way. Because as I'm reading this, I can't help but be like, wow, he does a really good job at, in journalism, they call it burying the lead, where you basically make someone go through several paragraphs before they find out what, like, the article is about. And now usually, when it's in, like, a newspaper or something, that's considered a bad thing. But in a horror/mystery like this, burying the lead like that is a great way to build suspense and interest. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of a servant's virtues, to be gasping for air. Oh God, God forbid you have breathing difficulties. He had probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet. He did have his usual trim appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small silent bow and quickly approached him. Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Please, come with me, quickly. What is the matter? As Genji whispered something into Nanjo's ear, Nanjo went pale. He rose from his sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children who were still engrossed by the TV. And the two of them rapidly left the parlor, muffling their footsteps. Just as they were about to exit the parlor, they came across Natsuhi, who was pushing a surfing cart loaded with a tea set. Genji whispered something into Natsuhi's ear, and Natsuhi went pale too, in apparent shock. Then, leaving the serving cart where it was, the three of them made dash towards the entrance. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window. What's that? Is it that Genji-san and Dr. Nanjo and... That's Aunt Natsuhi, isn't it? What's up, Anaki? Maybe something happened. They looked terribly flustered. When Jessica and Maria saw that Eva, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats, and that the serving cart had been abandoned in the entrance to the parlor, they also realized that something was the matter. Could there have been some kind of accident?
Let's go check it out. Oh, you all failed miserably. Good job, George. As the adult here, you were supposed to keep them from noticing something was horribly wrong. It's no fun if we're the only ones left out, right? For some reason, what Battler said sounded extremely indiscreet. But they couldn't deny that they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain without regards to their appearance. Let's check it out, okay? I'm worried something might have happened.
Jessica's uneasy words spoke for all of them.
Hey, Maria, are you coming too? The 9-year-old definitely should not.
Oh, wanna watch TV?
Thank God. Let's go on without her. Maria-chan, we'll be back soon. You keep watching TV, okay?
Oh!
Thank God.
By the time the kids made it outside, the adults were no longer in sight. But Jessica seemed to have a pretty idea where they'd gone, judging by the direction they'd been running. Following Jessica, we ran through the rain-soaked garden. The wind seemed to suddenly get stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began to rumble like it had the previous night. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island. It was trying to stop us from moving forward. Jessica, is there something over this way? I'm pretty sure there's a shed for gardening tools or something. What in the world could be going on in a place like that? Just as Jessica had said, they began to see a storehouse in front of them. They could also see the adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was opened, and several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse. Without even holding an umbrella, she looked like she was hanging her head, and her back was facing them. There was Genji, Nanjo, and Natsuhi, who had just left the mansion. The ones who'd left earlier, Kanon, Eva, and Hideyoshi, were also there, making for a small crowd of people. But there was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsuhi realized that the children were approaching, a terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide. You mustn't come any closer! Go back to the mansion! But despite that, No, because of that, the kids saw the scene Natsuki was trying to keep them away from.
Damn.
Inside the storehouse, with the shutter wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down. And right there was...
Oof.
Jessica's piercing shriek ran out. But that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest.
Oh, this music!
The same thing spilled out of Battler and George's mouths as well.
Dead bodies?
Ava spread her arms just like Natsuki, roaring at the kids with a bone-chilling expression on her face.
George, take everyone and return to the mansion. Quickly! Right now!
When Natsuki spread her arms, I thought she was trying to prevent us from advancing any further. But that wasn't why Ava was spreading her arms right now. She was trying to stop us kids from seeing that terrible scene. It was her mother's heart trying to protect the eyes and hearts of us children by blocking our view of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms.
Is this some kind of joke? Is it?
I've seen this kind of cheap scene all too often. In manga, TV, anime, movies, I'd seen it over and over again. This was just seeing something appear in real life that I'd seen plenty of times before in some of those more sensational movies, right? That alone shouldn't... but that suit, it's that old bastard, isn't it? I get it. Then that's Uncle Kraus and Kirei-san and Aunt Rosa. Dad! Dad! You mustn't... Jessica! You mustn't go in! You mustn't look! Dad! Dad! Rigor mortis is set in across almost the entire body. Most likely, 6 hours or more have passed since death. As far as I can tell by looking at the damaged area, there is a high probability they were damaged after their deaths. No, I must watch what I say. I'm a general practitioner. Examining corpses is outside my area of expertise. So what's going on here? Just killing them wasn't enough, so they went on to do something like this? The devil! This here's the work of the devil! Aunt Natsuki caught Jessica in her arms, and Aunt Ava caught George Aniki. So I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. If only there had been someone there to catch me too. I wouldn't have needed to have seen this horrible, evil scene burned into my eyes. No, that's not it. It isn't that there's no one here to catch me. The people who should catch me, they're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica said, it did look like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades, a grass sickle and a hammer, some carpentry tools such as a saw, piled up potted plants and bags of fertilizer. And treated just the same, the corpses of several people had been laid to rest there. No, had been tossed in there. I could tell them by their clothes. That old bastard and Kirie-san, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Goda-san and... Are there still more of them? How many people died? You're fucking kidding me! There's more than I can count on one hand! I didn't know whether it had been one of those gardening tools, which, if used for something other than their intended purpose, could definitely wield it with naked brutality, or whether some horrible tool had been brought here in specifically for this. Anyway, each of the bodies jammed in here had been given an atrocious makeup.
wasn't makeup. It was more like their faces had been plowed. Their faces were smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't even make after death. I couldn't tell where their eyes or their noses were, but I could find their mouths because they were gaping wide, their gums exposed. Did they tear out all their teeth? Holy shit. Whoa! They destroyed their faces. I'm getting raging loop flashbacks. Oh, that is, yeah. But their front teeth were missing, and even the cheeks that should have covered all of this were all torn up and laid bare. That trendy makeup you always spend so much time on, even though you're a man, isn't doing a thing now. Oof. Dad! I always thought you were going to hell, but still, not like this, right? You weren't such a stubborn bitch that you had to suffer so brutally. And Kirei-san, did I tell you to stop going out with this guy? There's absolutely no reason for you to end up like this, too. You've got no faces. No faces. Damn it! Damn it! Butler-san, you mustn't look anymore. There's no way your mother and father would want you to see them like this. For their sakes, you mustn't look anymore. Dead people are supposed to have faces that look like they're sleeping peacefully, right? They've got no faces! My dad and Kirei-san have no faces! I don't even know what kind of faces they were wearing when they died! What's wrong with me? Will I have to see these smashed monster-like faces every time I remember them? That's just great! I didn't want to remember that old bastard smug face anyway! Great! Just great! But why even Kirei-san's face? Kirei-san wasn't a crook? Sure, she ticked me off a bit now and then. But she was like a cool big sister to me. This is wrong. This is all wrong! At least Uncle Klaus has it better, doesn't he? It's not his whole face, just the side. At least he's got half his face left, right? That's still better! That's still better! Yeah, I was gonna say, oh, Jessica's gonna be happy to hear that. Jessica filled her ears with the sound of her own screaming, trying to shut out my reckless words. Stop it, Battler-kun! Just stop it! Just stop it! Aniki! Aniki! Disregarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there. Representing the feelings of everyone there, I screamed over and over. Welp! Well. I'm glad I did warm-ups before a stream. I knew something like this was coming. I'm like, I'm probably gonna have to do some, like, screaming. This is why, even though the mods add voice acting, I don't use them. Because I really enjoy the heck out of being, of doing emotive acting for this stuff. Even though I am definitely not a professional. Father. The ones lying over there are Uncle Kraus, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Kirie, Aunt Rosa, and Goda-san. Just those 5, right? No. There are 6 people. There's one more person over here. The body Hideyoshi was looking down on now.
happened to be hidden among the shadows in that mountain range of objects, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was. So George cursed himself. He cursed the fact that his worst guesses always turned out to be right. So, the one lying at your feet is Shannon, isn't it? Yes, it's Shannon-chan. No! George fell completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. Normally, he would have wanted to run to his beloved's body, screaming and crying. However, before rashly rushing forward, he worked to keep his composure and asked his father, "Is Shannon the same as Uncle Kraus and the others?" Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words. So he couldn't give George an immediate answer, or rather, he felt that silence was the only sincere and loving response he could give to George right now. When George asked if Shannon was the same, he meant to ask whether her corpse was in the same condition as the others or not, since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it. It meant her corpse was in the same brutal state. "Can I look at Shannon?" "No, you can't." "Why not? After all, I won't be able to see Shannon's face again, right? So, why won't you let me see what her face looked like at the end? The last time you met Shannon-chan was yesterday, right?" "Yes." "I see. When you left her, what kind of face was she showing you?" "It was a wonderful smile." After he handed her the ring, she hesitated, even though she must have already made up her mind. Then, she looked bashful and ran away because she was embarrassed to let him see her face looking like that. That's the expression that was revived in George's mind. "I see. Then, I'm sure Shannon-chan would want to leave you with that smile in her memory." Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it'd make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side, and no more than half of her expression remained. In the remaining blood-soaked half of her expression, if the remaining blood-soaked half of her expression had been wiped clean, would that graceful smile of hers have peeked out? But only half of it. Damn, that's morbid. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hands over his eyes. How brutal. If her face was going to be crushed anyway, then if only all of it had been crushed, he might have been able to temporarily distract George from his pain by making the pathetic suggestion that it was someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. But half of her face had been left untouched. It caused the body so much humiliation, while still proving beyond doubt that the body was Shannon's and no one else's. How inhuman, how brutish. And there, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes as she lay at Hideyoshi's feet, was Kanon. Kanon was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. But that didn't mean he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been the same as losing a blood relative. George, I'm sure Sanan-chan is saying thank you. She must be glad you did end up seeing her in such a pitiful state. I'm sure she's thanking you for holding strong and showing restraint.
Oh no, it's a terrible day for Raid.
I understand. I understand, Father. I understand. George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, crouching down limply. Father, I have a request. What is it? I want you to look for me. Is there a ring on Shannon's finger? A ring? Let me see. Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Kanon silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands. Yeah, there is. It's a diamond ring. With a valuable diamond. Must have been pretty expensive. And which hand? And which finger is it on? The ring finger of her left hand. I see. So Shannon-chan was engaged? George, don't tell me you...
Ava? That doesn't matter now.
A man made a lifelong promise to Shannon-chan. A man promised her happiness for life. Who that man was isn't the issue here. Being told that by a man is a woman's dream, isn't it?
I mean, if you like men, sure.
I don't know when she received this ring. I also don't know who gave it to her. However, even so, Shannon-chan took this ring. Then she accepted it and put it on her left ring finger. I'm sure the man who gave it to her was also happy. To most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out nonsense. However, someone who knew of George and Shannon's true relationship would understand the full meaning of those words. I see. Thank you, Father. George stood up. The traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to its usual calm one. Let's go. Battler-kun, Jessica-chan. If we stay here any longer, we'll get in the way of the adults. You're right. Jessica sniffed once, showing her face to her mother, who had been holding her the whole time, to let her know she was okay now. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual expression, although she still couldn't smile. Battler, hang in there. Battler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies. I'm sorry. Crying like hell calmed me down. You bastard, Dad. I bet you're laughing at me. After all that shit I talked about you, here I am, crying like a baby just 'cause you died. Oh, so what? I guess I just got the gene that makes you cry when your parents kick the bucket. Battler's face was bright red from the tears, but he had at least recovered enough to fake a smile, if only a bitter one. Kanon, you mustn't remain here any longer either. Take the children and return to the mansion. Natsuki had been standing under the rain this whole time, unable to take a step into the storehouse. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from battlers. Realizing that she had to take on a role of responsibility now that her husband was dead, she gave Kanon those orders. Yes, madame. Kanon rose silently and turned to face me. His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon's, and there was no life in his expression. On an ordinary day, if he had been told to guide the children through the beautiful rose garden, Kanon might have led the way, but now there was no distinction between Kanon and the children. They were now just kids of about the same age, suffering the pain of losing those close to them. After making sure that the children were leaving, Natsuki started giving orders to Genji. Genji, contact the police immediately. They probably won't be able to come until the typhoon passes, but they should be able to tell us what to do next. Understood. There is an emergency radio, so I will use that to contact them. When she heard that, Natsuki remembered. That's right. The phones were out today, weren't they? However, they also had a radio, since they couldn't necessarily rely on phones all the time while living on an isolated island. At any rate, they should start by contacting the police and receiving their instructions. Everything else could wait. Dr. Nanjo? Is there anything more you can do here? Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do. Understood. Genji? Could you at least cover their faces with something? Exposing them like this is humiliating to them as well. Yes, ma'am. Genji picked up several dry towels from inside the storehouse. When Ava stopped him with a shrill voice. Wait a second! Stop! This is the scene of the crime, isn't it? Then we mustn't disturb it. We all panicked and walked in here with our shoes on, but even that will surely get in the way of the police's investigation, right? Natsuki glared at Ava, offended. Objectively speaking, Ava was right. Even so, she glared at Ava as though accusing her of refusing to do these tragic corpses, which had been humiliated even after death. The simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Ava had spoken both calmly and correctly. This horrible situation definitely wasn't an accident. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. So they needed to be careful to avoid disturbing the site any further. They had to do what little they could to aid the police, preserving clues that might help catch the detestable culprit. I agree with Ava-san. Until the police come, we should leave everything be. What do you say, madame? You're right. Very well. Close it up. And, just in case, we should put a different lock on it. A different lock? Yes. When we came here, the shutter was locked. That means the culprit used the key to the shutter to lock it. That makes sense. So, does that mean the key that opens the shutter will have the culprit's fingerprints on it? I'm sure it'll be worth submitting it to the police as evidence, but Kanon-kun usually has it, and he used it to unlock the shed just now. It'll probably have Kanon's fingerprints on it. Also, that key was handed to Genji just now, and he took it with his bare hands. It doesn't look like it'll be very useful as evidence. That was careless of me. My apologies. Genji-san, are there any other keys to this storehouse? No, only this one. So the culprit walked out of the servant room with that key, and then was nice enough to return the key to where they found it?
Hideyoshi's theory sounded plausible. It was actually very strange if you thought about it. Why would they go to all the trouble of returning a key they stole? No. If you think about it even more deeply, there are some points that are even more bizarre. When a criminal hides a body, they are usually trying to delay the point at which it'll be found, so they can use that time to escape. Excuse me. And thus, I ruined all of everyone's immersion. I'm sorry. The 6 weren't necessarily killed here, but it was reasonable to assume they were killed somewhere on this island, carried to the storehouse, and hidden to delay the discovery of the crime. And yet, the eerie magic circle scribbled on the storehouse shutter had eloquently indicated the location of the hidden corpses. Sure, it didn't explicitly mention the corpses, but 6 people had gone missing. In that situation, someone had made sure an obvious piece of graffiti and even returned the key to the shutter, almost as though they wanted the corpses that here to be discovered. Anyway, we can't put all our faith in a lock that the culprit has opened once before. If we want to protect this place from the culprit's hand, I think we should put a new lock on it. I think that is a good plan. I agree. Genji fished around inside the storehouse and unsealed a brand new padlock that had been inside a small box. What should I do with the key? I will take it. I will take responsibility and hand it over to the police. Natsuhi took the key to the padlock from Genji's hand. After that, they all exited and lowered the shutter. And so, the corpses were once again sealed behind that shutter, which was still covered by that creepy magic circle. Genji crouched down in front of the shutter to fasten the new padlock. Shutters often have places in front where you can attach your own lock in addition to the main lock of the shutter. This was one of those types. In the midst of the roar of thunder and the pouring rain, the storehouse stood there ominously, with its closed shutter still covered in a blood-like, creepy substance. It swallowed up the bodies of the 6. To Natsuhi, putting on the new lock on wasn't mainly to preserve the scene for the police. She might have felt like she wanted to shut that mouth for all eternity, to prevent that eerie beast from swallowing up any more victims. Come on, let's go, everyone. Dr. Nanjo, thank you very much for your work. Genji, hurry and contact the police. I will do so as soon as I return. The adults left the storehouse. The ghastly magic circle drawn on the shutter kept the 6 bodies in its throat, looming eerily as the lightning occasionally lit it up. Perfect timing! Alright. On that absolutely delightful note, that's a wrap for the night. Ooh, this was good. This was good. Thanks for the stream, of course. Oh, man. Alright. Getting interesting? Oh, yeah. Ooh! So, I'll show you real... Oops. As we're about to start. Hold on. I'll show you real quick. I like this touch. The people who are dead, their portraits are covered in red. Very obvious thing to do, but I do like that touch. Alright. Save? My goodness. I knew murders were coming. I knew 6 people were going to die. I did not think they would all be dead in the same place like that. For some reason. It makes the most sense that that's how it would go down, but for some reason, I did not expect that. My oh my. So exciting. It's cooking! It's cooking! It's cooking! Alright. Let's see. Your next Umineko stream is gonna be on Sunday. So, I mean, we gotta wait for the next installment, but at least, I mean, we left off on a cliffhanger, but it's a cliffhanger that's not gonna get resolved for quite a while, so hopefully it won't drive us all crazy. But we've got more mysteries. We're doing Danganronpa V3 tomorrow. You know, looking at the schedule, I'm realizing how many mystery murder games I play. Why am I like this? I just like them, I guess. I guess. It's a bit of a theme, it is. I'm just like, wait a second here. Gotta finish that Raise the loop too? Yup, it's on the schedule for Saturday. That's why I put it on Saturday, in the hopes that I will have the energy to do a long stream. So we can hopefully finish it, because we're technically on the last bit of Raging Loop, so we'll see. I'm back, but I have like 20 minutes to say bye. No worries, we're wrapping up as well. So Danganronpa tomorrow, and let's see who we can do for Reido. Hime! It's her birthday! It's Hime's birthday! Well, that wasn't easy. That was easy. Alright. Very special raid meeting night. So, let us do... It says it's her birthday, so instead of the usual DD raid, let's do DD raid. And... Whoops. Come on. There we go. Let's do that. Birthday raid, pretty much. Alright, so let's do this. DD raid, happy birthday! I really should do a command for, like, birthday raids, but that's okay. A problem for another day. Alrighty, and if we got any lurkers who want to join the Discord, there you go. Alrighty, let's go say happy birthday to Hime! Alrighty. That's it for me, 99 Ranger, 99 everyone. If it's daytime where you are, have an awesome rest of your day. And if it's nighttime, have a great rest when you head on off to bed. Until next time, take care of yourself. Wash your face. Brush your teeth. Eat good food. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.